All right. Let's talk about Archimedes. So one of Archimedes' most popular or famous quotes is, "Give me a lever long enough and someplace to put it in, and I can move the world." Let's talk about how executives in companies can use Scrum as a lever to boost profit. So most for-profit companies probably care about profit. There might be some exceptions. Maybe in early stages of a company, they may not care as much about profit as they might care about building their user base, passionate returning users. Maybe if you're a company like Twitter or maybe Tesla or Uber, in the beginning, you're willing to take some losses because you have a hope that in the future that you're going to break even. There might be a hockey stick growth in your customers, and at that point, you'll start breaking even, and then you'll become profitable. So maybe those are the exceptions to the rule, but even in companies like that, chances are they are trying to keep an eye on the profit. Profit might not be the most important thing at that stage of their life cycle, but it's probably not something that they can ignore. All right. So let's dive in. Travel back in time, many years ago, I was struggling as an entrepreneur, and my wife was kind enough to work nights and weekends and put me through one of the best business schools in our area. She sent me to the Karuth Institute of Entrepreneurship at SMU's Cox School of Business, and then she paid for me to do the Masters in Entrepreneurship course there. One of the best classes I took in that course, every class was jam-packed with ideas that I applied to grow my business. But one of my most memorable classes was a class by Professor Gordon Walker on strategy and innovation. And my takeaway from that class was Professor Walker's VPC framework. Let's talk about it. So VPC framework is a framework that can guide your corporate strategy. The V stands for value. So whenever a customer chooses to engage in a transaction with a service provider, the customer is getting some value. So whether you think about the value you're getting from Amazon Prime, Instacart, DoorDash, whatever product or service you're using, your iPhone, whether you know it or not, you have quantified a dollar amount in your mind for the value that you're getting from that service or the product. All right. The P stands for price. This is the price at which the solution provider or service provider is offering that you can purchase the solution or the service. Now, the solution provider can set the price, but they cannot force you to engage in the transaction. You're going to do some math in your mind. If it's Amazon Prime, if the membership is $100, you probably are thinking, well, I think this is valuable to me. The worth is $150 or $200. Only if and only if the value that you have quantified in your mind is greater than the price that the service provider has quantified, will you enter the transaction. The exception is if it's a monopoly, you're screwed. You hate the product, you hate the service, but you're screwed because you don't have any other options. That can be intoxicating for the company, but I've worked in large companies which were in this position. They did not listen to their customer, and when someone faster, better, cheaper came along, they got screwed. So I haven't worked in Blockbuster, but that's probably an example. Maybe Blockbuster, maybe Yellow Pages, maybe your landline provider, maybe your cable provider. A lot of the companies which were monopolies and did not listen to their customers, and they set the price, and they got addicted to the customer having to buy at the price that they set, no matter whether they were providing value or not. Many of them are not around or are in the process of not being around unless they radically reinvent themselves, right? The C stands for cost. How much money does the company or the solution provider have to spend to bring that solution to the market, all right? So let's talk about profit now, or surplus. So Professor Walker taught us there are two kinds of surplus. There's the customer surplus or the customer profit. So this is the delta between the value the customer is getting and the price that the customer is paying. Business surplus is the profit the business is making, the delta between the price they are charging to the customer and the cost they are paying or incurring to deliver the solution to the market. All right, let's make it real. Let's talk about Facebook. I was going through the Facebook quarterly earnings for Q2 2020, and I simplified it because this is not a class in financial accounting. So I simplified it, but at a high level, they made $20 billion. It cost them $15 billion to make that $20 billion. Their profit is $5 billion. What is the surplus for the customer? The customer is the advertiser. I don't know. But obviously, advertisers feel that Facebook is a meaningful, effective platform for advertising. That's why they paid Facebook $20 billion. All right, let's move on. How do you increase surplus? Professor Walker told us a few ways to increase surplus. All right. One way is you can keep your price the same, maybe the cost the same, you as a solution provider, the company, but you can offer more value to your customer. So now customer is happy because for the exact same price point, their profit increased, their surplus increased. The second way is you provide the exact same value to the customer, but you jack up your price. Maybe the customer is so happy with you, customer says, I will gladly pay more. So maybe, I would pay more for Amazon Prime if it meant that, especially in a COVID era, I don't have to go to a grocery store or to buy supplies or an electronic store. It's also possible that the customer might say, no, this is too high a price and I'm going to go to Walmart or some other provider. So you've got to be careful. If you preserve the value provided to the customer or the perception of the value the customer is getting and you jack up your price, it could work or it could not work. You've got to use empiricism to see what are the consequences and course correct. Next way to increase the surplus, customer value, perception of value stays the same, price stays the same, but you're reducing costs. So your business profit goes up. Okay. And the next option is create more value for customer. You can jack up your price, you can reduce your costs. So you're increasing the size of the pie, and maybe the customer surplus increases and your surplus increases as a business. All right. So some ways in which you can increase profit both for you and your customer. What's this got to do with Scrum? About the same time, I went to Boston to attend the Professional Scrum Master 1 class with Ken Schwaber. Throughout the class, Ken was trying to tie back the principles, values, and practices, roles, events, and artifacts of Scrum to 3 outcomes, business outcomes. He reminded us that Scrum is a way to empirically increase value, empirically decrease waste, and empirically manage risk, right? And as I started connecting the dots between what Ken was teaching and what Professor Walker taught me in my strategy and innovation class, I felt that we can combine these 2 frameworks to create something that's powerful. And I think that's really why Ken designed, co-created Scrum. That's really what he wanted. He wanted Scrum to be that lever that executives and teams and organizations can use to boost profit. Okay, so let's talk about how can management use this powerful lever? What messages should they be giving to their organization? So if you have short sprints in Scrum, if the executives use Scrum to shorten the feedback loop and have a good DoD, an awesome DoD, and in fact, not only have an awesome DoD, but keep making that DoD awesome, continuously challenge the teams to increase technical excellence in pursuit of delivering high value, high quality solutions to the customer. What's going to happen is you might be able to deploy to production frequently. You might be able to put solutions you feel are valuable into the hands of your customers and users. Then what's going to happen? Well, you can inspect the behavior of the customer and the users, and you can ask them, hey, what do you think about this release? What was valuable and what was not valuable? And based on what they're saying, you can refine the backlog, you can eliminate wasteful PDI, and you can set a sprint goal that is more aligned with customer value, and you can increase the customer surplus. You can increase the value that the customer is perceiving from the solutions you offer. When you increase the customer surplus, maybe it gives you some pricing flexibility. Maybe you can jack up your prices, or at least you're not playing defense because customers are bad-mouthing you, customers are leaving you, and the cost of acquiring new customers is eating into your profit margin, all right? Also, once the team has set a meaningful, valuable sprint goal, executives can then encourage, empower, enable the team to use the daily Scrum to course correct. My friend Dr. Charles Suschek would say every daily Scrum is kind of like a micro retrospective, a micro review, a micro planning for the next 24 hours. So executives can explain to the teams daily Scrum is not just a waste of time where you just check the boxes. It's a powerful opportunity to course correct in pursuit of greater customer surplus and business surplus and profitability, right? Then create safety so your teams can have courageous retrospectives. Practice servant leadership, as Ken Schwaber always reminds us, ask the team. That's the most powerful thing a servant leader can do. In fact, I have a client right now where the CEO asks the team, what do you need? How can I help? Such powerful questions, right? If we use courageous retrospectives and servant leadership, it can expose wasteful culture, habits, processes, practices, tools, anything that's getting in the way of profitability, so that you can adapt, you can course correct, and management can help in ruthlessly removing anything that is decreasing your surplus, either business surplus or customer surplus, so that you can reduce the costs, wasteful costs, wasteful habits, all right? So just to recap, we briefly spoke about the VCC framework created by Professor Gordon Walker, great book, Modern Competitive Strategy, which explains that framework in greater detail and gives you about 7 or 8 elements of your competitive strategy. We tied it to Scrum, what I learned with Ken. And in fact, a play on words, if you combine Scrum with modern competitive strategy, you get modern competitive strategy. I shared that with one of my friends, David Starr, and he said, keep your day job. So I'm sorry, but I couldn't resist sharing that fun with you. All right, hope you found this useful. 10 ways in which management can use Scrum as a lever to boost profit. If you like this content, join Agile DevOps DFW. These are the kind of topics we speak about. I'd love to have you in our future live sessions. If you can't attend our future live sessions, follow us on YouTube. Our recordings are there along with plenty of other videos. Follow us on LinkedIn. And I'd love to see you at my next video. Until then, thank you. Keep calm and Scrum on.